I got you.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry to be a little late here getting started, but welcome and good to see everyone again. Some of you I haven't seen, and Kyle, we have not met you yet. So
yes, hi.
This is our student representative, the chair or the president of the Student Government Association. And we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little about yourself, Kyle?
Okay. I'm Kyle. I'm from Long Island, New York. I'm currently a communications major. I'm not sure what else to add.
How do you say your last name, Kyle?
Mate.
Kyle did a great job introducing himself to the new students, and we hadn't had a chance to work together, but we are doing our pizza with the presidents, and he's going to help get the Student Bill of Rights going, and he's going to hit the ground running. The other thing I find really, really cool is that you came to us from where? You're a transfer student, right?
Yes,
so
from St. John's.
So he's up in Cobleskill from St. John's, and I found that interesting to why he chose us. But I hear our communications program is pretty good.
Not bad.
No.
It was well built.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
And I think just for Kyle's benefit, we'll go around the room and sort of introduce ourselves, and we'll start over with you, Eric.
Eric Stein, I've been on council 3 or 4 years, I think. And my day job is over at the hospital.
Barbara DeCoco, I've been on the council probably just about the same amount of time as Eric. I used to be at the hospital as the board chair. I have retired. I'm retiring from everything because board.
Thank you, Barbara.
Linda Cross, I think this is my 7th year on the council, and my day and night job is as a sheep farmer. I'm a retired high school special education teacher.
I'm Susan Lynn, Provost. Irene Mouse, President Secretary.
Rich Schultes, I've been on the council about 1.5 years. I'm a deputy commissioner of elections, and I also own and operate Woodbury Lanes and all.
My name is Philip King. I've been on the council. Well, actually, I think I mixed the cement for these buildings. Been a long time now. And partially retired, but still involved in the real estate business.
And I'm Olive Scott. I chair the council. This is my 10th year. I'm retired from this institution back a number of years ago. And of course, you know the president.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Martin. I'm the Vice President for Operations.
And I don't know, do you know?
Mark Fitty, Alumni Association President.
I'm Tara. I'm the Chief Development Officer.
Hi, I'm Wendy Gilman. I'm the Vice President for Business.
Oh,
Of course, I know
Go
you.
way
know.
back.
Hi, I'm Ann Myers. I'm retired, and I've been on the council for about, I think I came with him
About 1.5 years, almost 2 years, isn't it?
a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm Lois Glenn, Chief Advancement Officer.
I know you won't remember all those, Kyle, but at least you,
I'll try.
you can sort of point and say, oh, I've met you before.
Yes.
And the pictures are up on the wall.
Awesome.
We got to get his up there.
I
Yeah.
just got it taken yesterday. So.
Good.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
You'll be in here studying, right?
Yeah.
And Tracy Purcell will not be here. She's council member 2, and her husband Tim, who's president or chair of the foundation, and they're stuck in Florida trying to get home, I guess.
Their flight got canceled. They were hoping to get out, and now they're heading out to get provisions and hunker down.
Oh, they
They
did.
can't get out.
Where are they?
They're in Orlando, and no one can get out. Like, not even my father and sister. They don't even know where to evacuate.
You know, the pictures on the roads are just unreal.
Yeah.
So we all need to pray for those people down there and keep them in our thoughts. And Susan Reitmeyer will not be here. She's on vacation in the Washington, Oregon area, so away from the hurricane.
And the heat.
Yes. Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from May 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as printed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried. I'd like to ask President Tremenzio for an update.
Thank you. I just realized, Irene, did we? Oh, first of all, the most
Amy.
important
Oh, my
news
goodness.
is that Amy Healy is a grandmother. His name is Parker William Healy. 32 hours of labor for her daughter-in-law, but everybody is safe and happy and healthy. So that's the best news yet.
And 7 pounds something.
7 pounds, 7 ounces. So it was a long haul, but he has arrived. Yes, thank you. So Irene has been holding down the fort beautifully, and I appreciate all the work she's been doing with craziness. So what she's handing out is the draft document for the vision, mission, and value statements. And we didn't do the goal and objectives, though, right?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's fine.
Do we need one?
Bonnie and I know it by heart, right?
Yes, I did, thank you.
Yeah, Mark.
Pull in there by Eric.
Okay, and then Barbara happens.
Thank you.
We'd rather you be a part of us. Did you get It's been a pleasure to be a part of this process. I think as Eric, who's been the college council rep, would, I hope, attest, because I have to tell you, your council member has been to every meeting. And we appreciate his commitment to this. This right now will be what the faculty will be voting on in October, but it's been, at least 8 months in the making. And what's in red is the, yet again, one more change that we're going to ask for a vote. But the vision is the one sentence you see. And this has been vetted through a 40-person task force, 40 people task force, and then several major workshops. The last workshop was in August with attendance of over 100 people. So it's been vetted through the schools, through administrative count. Every way we can get this out, it's been vetted. So this is it. And the beauty of this is that we're owning our name. So that's the vision. And then the mission statement is the 2 sentences plus. So the vision statement and the piece underneath it is how we qualify it. Mission statement, same thing. And then our value statement. So this is what will be going before the task force meeting on October 6th, I think it is. And where the task force will bless it and then send it on to governance, who will then bless it. And now what you're getting, thank you, Sue, is the goal and objectives. I know it by heart. The beauty of this is we have one goal. One goal. There are so many strategic plans that have a bazillion. We have one. And it is on the top, which is to sustain a thriving and effective college. We realize the importance of then the objectives is living through our vision and mission and value statements. So right now there are 9 objectives, and what you see on this is living our values, obviously, is a value statement, fulfilling the mission, honoring the honoring the mission, being excellent at doing our work, and to make sure that we are well connected to our own and other communities. So if this goes through, it will be one goal and 9 objectives. What will happen, the living, fulfilling, honoring, achieving, strengthening will drop out because they helped guide these teams. And what will be then is the goal that says to sustain a thriving, effective college by the 9 objectives. After that's voted on, which is historic. This is, I think, historic, to put it mildly. The cabinet, with all of the units, including the students and the student government, will start the operational plan. This is the framework for the strategic plan. The task force will dissolve. The governance will take over, and then we are in the process right now of developing how this will come to life. And it's going to involve the whole community, where we can connect with current work, current structures. We're not creating structures outside of anything we're doing at this institution. I don't know if the cabinet wants to add, or Eric, because you are the council rep, if there's anything else you would like to add.
I'd just like to talk about the vision a bit, and some of you have heard this. The Bassett system's going through the same process, and when in our first meeting, a short video was shown that it was titled, "Why Does Your Mission Statement Suck?" And basically it was, they used a pizza parlor, and their mission statement was "Make the best damn pizza around." And they got a group of people together, and it started to be worked on and wordsmithed and massaged and whatever. And in the end, the mission statement was to create a unique entertainment venue for men, women, and children, or something ridiculous like that. So I had the absolute pleasure of spending 4 months in a room with 30 or 40 people, many of which were English teachers, and we talked about words. And we came up with this, which is absolutely remarkable and a great statement. So our mission and vision statement don't suck. The second thing is, in preparing for the BASA process, I actually Googled mission, vision, and values. And one article was really interesting. It said corporate mission statements are all about the corporation, and they always come down to, we need to make money. Community benefit organizations, not-for-profits, us, their vision statement should be outward. They should be aspirational for what they would like the world, the world to be. And I think that our vision statement really gets that, because we're calling for learners to grow. It's not about us. The mission statement is, how are we going to help fulfill that vision? And I think that nails it too. So I think this, it was iffy for a while, right?
It was very iffy.
But this was, I think, a really great outcome.
So this will go to again, so the task force will look at this again on October 6th, give its blessing, send it on to the Fiscal Affairs and Strategic Planning Committee, who will bring it forward on our behalf to the rest of the community. So I'm very happy and pleased. And I kept saying to the community, I am happy that we had to do this in one of the most turbulent times in the country. It keeps you focused, it keeps you moving forward, and it just puts some what do I want to say? I guess some normalcy to everything, and that what we have to do also is more important than ever. So I also now want to, it was supposed to be, and my apologies, enrollment, budget, and facilities. We'd like to give you a quick update on all of that. So I'd like to start with facilities, so you can see with Bonnie's team and efforts what has happened over is it just the summer, Bonnie, or pretty much?
Well, yeah, the pictures are pretty much the summer, but
yeah,
the landscape is a
You
part
want
of
to get
it.
the lights, Eric, please?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
good. Thank
Perfect.
you. Okay, so we had talked in the spring about the landscape for capital and how historically we had gotten 5-year capital plans. We had done a master plan that was concluded in 2012, and then the bottom fell out of capital, and we were only funded 1 year at a time at about the $2 million level, with a lot of restrictions on the money for critical maintenance only. For 2017-18, we were initially very encouraged that there would be a 5-year plan. There was not, but we saw almost twice as much money as we had seen in the past. And we also saw, you see, there's money for critical maintenance, but there's also money for campus improvements. And that's the first time since 2013 that we've had money that we're allowed to use on new construction, on doing something other than roofs and heating systems, but actually to start adapting things for the needs of our programs. I think I mentioned before, Joe and I did a listening tour and went around the campus to see what people thought we needed to be working on. We developed an annual plan. We meet with the construction fund to get their approval of that, and we kind of outlined what the next 5 years would look like. Our strategy is always a little bit of a tightrope. We want to keep money, we want to get as much done as possible. We want to keep some money for things that are emerging. And part of this capital plan was a large grant program. The construction fund was given $296 million this year to distribute to the campus as grants. So we want to position ourselves to get as much money as possible for this campus, and so far we're doing pretty well with that. We're currently doing an electrical distribution project. Some of you may remember 2 winters ago the campus was running on 17 generators. It was handled extremely well. There was not ever a hiccup in operations, but it pointed out that our underground utilities needed attention, and so we have a 2-year project that's being paid for entirely through grant funds. We have a project in Prentice, which if that's successful will close Prentice beginning in January for a year to 18 months. That would also be entirely grant funded. It went out to bid once. The bids were 20% higher than the estimate. It's now out to bid again, so we'll see. Another project that's currently out to bid that if the bids come in at a good level will be grant funded is renovations to Balk to completely redo the theater, the gym, and the lobby. And that will be the beginning of hopefully transforming that building to become our student union. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed on that one. So this summer, everybody's been really busy. This is the Pit, Kaz's new eatery in Champlain Hall. It's a burger place, and they're sharing the space with Culinary, who will also use it for some of their events. There were no bathrooms downstairs in Champlain, and now we have these lovely bathrooms. They're my favorite bathrooms on campus. They're really, really very pretty and function well. Some more work in Brickyard Point, which we've been working on for several years. The outside is now, absolutely beautiful. There's a great conference room in there, which we added air conditioning to this summer. So that's really a well-kept secret on campus that once it gets out, I'm sure we won't be able to even use that space. Baseball, as you know, is back. The field, the dugouts, the pitcher's mound, the fence were all completed this summer. Pearson Residence Hall got new student lounges, and those lounges contain kitchens. We've been systematically adding these types of facilities to the halls. This is a really exciting project. Dick's Hall got single-user bathrooms, so gone are the days of gang bathrooms with hair sinks from the 60s, and in their place are just bathrooms which are gender neutral, handicapped accessible. They have a sink and a shower and a toilet, and anybody can go in and lock the door and take care of their needs.
And we have you've got how many on each floor now? Is it 8? Is it 4 a cluster?
Yeah, I think there's 8 on each. 8,
right?
Yeah, I think so.
So that was also remarkable because I went in to see what was going on, and they were so proud because they were able to get all these single bathrooms in an area that, and the engineering to do that is remarkable. In Balk, we have a new athletic training room.
and a new single-user locker facility. NCAA rules require that we provide facilities for students who may be transgendered or in transition, but actually, what we have is a room that any single individual can use rather than the communal facilities. The Route 7 fence, we had this beautiful fence, and then we had
Not so beautiful.
Right, a long fence line of chain link fence. It was kind of a legacy fence. So now we have this nice collegiate fence, and hopefully one day we'll add some stone columns and yeah. Okay, more stuff in the summer. Started working on the carriage house, which will be our retail facility. Actually, the addition on that started yesterday. I mentioned the electrical distribution project, and the switchgear is part of that. We had shower renovations in a number of the residence halls. Started working on moving dairy processing up to Cest, and that'll be completed this winter. Lots of stuff on the agenda ahead. Going to do some renovations in NAP for financial aid and student accounts. The floor of the beef barn's finally being poured. Brickyard Point is going to get bathroom upgrades. I mentioned Bow and Prentice. We're gearing up for fermentation in Wheeler. We're going to do some more renovations in Old Gym. And after Prentice is renovated and reopens, then we hope to tackle Chandler. And these are some of the things we have on our list for the future, not specifically planned yet, but it will depend on how the future funding comes in.
This is wonderful.
Wanted to just mention really quickly some of our energy efforts. We had received a $2 million special capital appropriation for energy projects that funded our energy master plan, which is required under Executive Order 88. And the plan requires that it identifies projects that would save energy, and it requires that we do any project which would be greater than a specific payback. And when we finally got the plan, which took about a year to do, we'd already done everything. I was so pleased. There was nothing that the plan actually required us to do, but there were still good ideas in there. So Don Schaefer, our energy manager, among other things, is working on energy efficient lighting. And these are the buildings that he's done so far. And you can see the difference. This is in the warehouse over at facilities, in the quality of the light. That one is yellow and dim and dingy, and this is clean and bright. And the savings are phenomenal. This is the money for 5 of the buildings, of the 8 buildings that have been done. And you can see the kilowatt hour savings. Generally, we're using 10% of the electricity that we were using for a much better lighting situation, and a little bit of the lighting math for those 5 buildings. You can see the kilowatt hour savings, and the financial savings are about $8,000 a year. So we're really pleased about that, and we're going to keep going as long as we have money till the whole campus is brightly lit. Some plans going forward for energy this year: more lighting, more monitoring. The combined heat and power project is very cool. It will take the heat and power that the swimming pool generates, which we have to obviously keep warm all year, and turn that into electricity to feed back into the grid and save us some money. And that project is a collaboration between academics and facilities, which is really nice. Well, that's it.
The round of applause.
Excuse me, but I asked about the solar fields up by the dairy barns or in that area. Are they online, number one?
Yes.
And what are they providing electricity to here?
They are providing electricity to Cest.
So the new dairy processing center will
operate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I can send it to you if you want. There's a place online where you can look and you can watch it being produced.
Good. We're not selling power back to NIMO yet.
No, not yet.
But it's amazing how proactive Bonnie's crew is. It's not by mandate. It's the right thing to do. So and the campus is spectacularly looking. It's just unbelievable, and I hear people talk about it all the time. We had a SUNY administration here, and they were like, "Oh my God, this place is beautiful." We're like, "Yeah." So
we get to work here.
yeah. So thank you. Any other questions for Eric?
Do we tell the community about these projects?
We're
Because it kind of fits our some of our objectives.
It does.
we're starting to figure that one out. And I think you're right. How do we do that? And actually, we'll be sharing some information with you about that issue later.
You have any suggestions about how we should share it with the community?
Well, I was going to say one press release, but there's a lot of material here. So the energy plan, I think, would be one. I think the facility improvements might be another. Are there any things affected where the public might come on campus and want to know that something's not going to be there for a while, but it'll be better?
Yeah.
So I think it could be a number of stories.
Yeah. That's right, because actually we forgot to say that we're resurfacing the tennis courts.
Yes.
And that's been a bone of contention with some of the community members. They were upset that we are resurfacing the tennis courts. So that whole area is going to be a new parking lot put in, and all of that's going to get up to date. But I believe we're taking a couple courts away.
Yes, we're resurfacing 2 of them.
Right, because that's enough for what our needs are, because we don't have a tennis team, and we're putting in a new basketball court as well.
Right.
All right. And the idea for that is eventually, bless you, is the commencement ceremonies will be down there with hopefully a tent and eventually a pavilion that can seat 3,000 people, because commencement will no longer be where the baseball field is. So that was another piece we should add to the mix of what's happening down by the field house. Ann, you had a question?
Yeah, so the decision has been made to keep Cement City intact now?
Cement City. What's Cement
those
City?
are the high-rise.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we got to bring Porter back online.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it costs $120,000 per bed to raise a dormitory, a residence hall. So what Cement City will be with us for a very long time.
We have some ideas to make it prettier, though.
Yeah, we do.
I know the difficulty in rehabbing it because of the way they were.
Well, actually, we do have a report from a consulting firm that's pretty cool to bring Porter completely to apartment style and no gang bathrooms and so forth and so on, and HVAC, $14 million, which is not a lot on one level, but we also have one. They've graded it down from $1 million up to $14 million.
Right.
And has shown us how to actually make them quite interesting. So it would cost, but we think it's cheaper than to start over. I mean, $120,000. I don't know if that's still the number.
It's probably even higher now, but so that's a $250 million asset. That sits there empty.
Yeah, so we have some ideas for that, but no, we're going to fall in love with them and make them even better. They're not going to.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Tara's going to give us a spectacular enrollment report. As she's handing those out, I have to say that her admissions crew have done stellar work. Their approach to getting prospective students to our campus and enrolling is excellent, and it aligns better with who we are. So you'll see that in the numbers.
It made me feel just a little better. Eric just shared with me if we were going to build a new hospital, it'd be $1 million a bed.
Although
Wow.
that goal is probably closer to 2
Right,
million.
because of all of the piece of all the equipment and the needs and hip,
Yep.
yeah,
Oh,
no,
my goodness.
it's not a,
So we won't be doing that right
Right.
away.
There's some more coming around.
Thank you. Barbara gave my report, so I'm going to take my seat.
or slide right in.
Slide right in here.
Are we using this right now?
No, we're not.
And stick it in between.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Barb.
Brian, could you pass those around? I think
Oh,
you
sure.
got the-
I got that bunch.
You got the,
Sorry.
no, it's okay.
Thank you.
Got distracted.
So I wanted to give you I'm sorry, I feel bad.
Do you have enough?
Yeah, I think so. You have,
Everybody have
And
a
some of
you want to have one? Great.
Yeah. Is
So I
that
wanted to give
one?
you a quick snapshot of where we landed at the top in terms of our overall applications, in terms of the recruitment efforts. So with the total number is the total number of applications we received. The next line talks about the number of offers of admissions we made and the number of deposits we collected this year. So it was a great year from an admissions perspective and a recruitment perspective. We did a number of things, I want to say differently. There are a number of things we put into place differently 2 years ago that are paying off with a number, and some things that are really exciting that are planned for this year as well. The other thing that I'd like to say about that is, you'll see that in the numbers below, we've made some gains out of state where a number of places are struggling, and the gains that we've been able to make just to hold flat, if not grow, our new student numbers, as you look at the number of our peer institutions and certainly the private institutions, that is not something we expected to do coming into the fall. That is unusual and something I'm very, very proud of the staff and all faculty that help, and really it's a campus-wide effort. So I appreciate what Karen said, that it took everyone to do that. So as we go down and look at the overall college enrollment current picture, this is the registrations as of yesterday. I would expect this number to still move a little bit in the next week or two as we get the census data back from faculty in terms of verifying who's physically sitting in the seats, but not significantly. So this, I just wanted to compare it for you against last year's third week official numbers. And then I put the percentages in so that you could just see the percentage of the class, how that's made up right now. So you look at the new student numbers, we are up over last year, and the percentage of the class made up is about 31% of the total class is made up of new students. And then our transfer student numbers are up as well. And I want to make note that we have about 90 students right now that are just in our degree completion programs that are run through PACE, the Professional Continuing Education Office. And that is, our sites are at Rockland, Hudson Valley. A couple students are left at Jefferson, but mainly the main sites are, the biggest site is Rockland, and then Hudson Valley, with plans to really continue to expand those programs. But those are becoming even more important to us, the students we serve at those programs. So those are really community college students that are place-bound that want our four-year programs. So we deliver on-site for them. So they're SUNY Cobleskill students receiving a SUNY Cobleskill degree on the community college campus. So that continues to make up more of those transfer student numbers. Extremely important to us, and we really feel the great service that we're providing to those students at those community colleges. And then we have the other part of that are some of our program study students, for instance, the JIT program in biotech. They are continuing students. They are in this category because they may have started somewhere else and are continuing here with us in a specialized program. That's sort of the other, or they're a special student category where they may be, are some of our non-matrics are in that as well, or they would be in our part-time actually, excuse me. Then we have the part-time students as well. The other number that is really important is our in-state, out-of-state. Our out-of-state recruitment efforts are while we do go to general out-of-state SUNY fairs, NACAC fairs, We have really looked to partner with, specific high schools that are specific to the programs that we are looking to expand in, the programs that we have partner programs with programs that they're offering in high schools, bringing faculty with us to those programs, bringing buses here. We know when we get students and faculty on campus, they are so excited about our facilities. They're so excited about engaging with our faculty. That tends to really keep those pathways and funnels open. Also, continuing to build articulation agreements with those high schools helps to drive those numbers as well. So while the overall number is, I would say, flat, 2306 compared to 2310, the proportion of students being out of state, Wendy will talk about that next, is helpful to have an increase in out-of-state numbers. The ability to have an additional group, higher proportion of new students. The goal is to bring more of those back and try to increase the retention numbers so that we can start building the overall enrollment picture and continue to build that up higher again. So that's really where we stand now, going into the fall.
And if Sue may want to say something about it, the retention piece is important to look at. You got to realize the pathways of students coming in here is amazing. Those who come in with 20 credits under the belt, 5 credits under the belt, maybe the transfer students coming in, all of the pathways. We've been trying to watch where we are and what's going on. And if you all remember me saying last year, our budget model for 4-year students, for example, isn't 8 semesters. It might be 5 semesters. For transfer students, it may be even, or the 2-year, it may be 3 semesters. So it's extremely volatile. So right now we're using retention numbers that fit a traditional pattern until we get a handle on this. But Sue has already met with the department chairs to talk about where are we with the retention, and that's where the work has to happen now. Anything else you want to say, Sue?
No, I think there were some great ideas. Barb was there actually on Tom's behalf, and I think there's some great ideas that came forward, and a real, I think, energy about, trying to address the issues. So very positive.
And we're even saying to SUNY, who's starting to listen to us, you can't just lump the retention with all the students in one area, because we do have 2-year, and how that flows into the 4-year, how many students are still with us but move to another program, or how many are leaving because it makes sense. We have 33 pathways now with SUNY Albany, for example. We are saying that if they go, and that's where they need to go, that should count as a success for us, but it doesn't. And in the meantime, if this retention number keeps moving, how do we build the budget? How do we keep ourselves healthy and sustaining what we have here? It's very complicated, but we can figure this out together and know. So if these are our retention numbers, what does that mean? Where else can we go to keep bringing the students in? That's why Rockland is so important, and Hudson Valley. But if we purposely are saying for some of the 2-year programs, students, we're going to send you here because we're not going to grow that kind of program here yet, or it doesn't make sense, it's creating a model that we don't have here yet. So the retention number looks like it's going down, and what we have to do for that. I don't know, Barb, you want to add anything to that?
I would just add that the reason why I was late is a student that is in our Associates of Health Science came to me first day and said, I'd like to switch to the biotechnology, but I'm worried about my financial aid. So I don't know how much you all know about the financial aid, but it's enormously more difficult to thread that path these days. So we started 3 days ago getting his degree switched to the bachelor's in biotechnology, which will allow him to stay here for 4 years and apply to med school, which is what he ultimately wants. And in doing that, we had to make sure that his financial aid and his Excelsior scholarship still aligned. So the last hour or so, that's what we did to make sure, yes, the biotech transfer is in. Internal transfer, again, he's going to come down as a ding somewhere in some column.
He is.
But he's a success for our campus, and it's certainly a success for him. It's exactly what he wanted to do.
Thanks.
So we were able to get the financial aid done too.
So, thank you.
Today's the deadline to get it all aligned for Excelsior.
And the good news is, if the council would like, at the next council meeting, we can show you some of the data analytics that Tara is working on to show you the story.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a good story, but we've got to figure out, because everybody asks what the retention rate is. And that may not be the right question anymore. And we're trying to figure that out, and SUNY gets it. So hang in with us, because I think we're going to get this figured out, and then that turns us over to how it affects. It does have a bottom line with the budget.
Kara, just a question. Any impact of the free tuition program?
And, Randy's going to talk about
that. The anticipation was all of a sudden you're going to have hundreds of more students applying. That was not being allowed. I can tell you from an admission perspective.
Well, not only that, it doesn't, as this is coming around, it didn't mean that we opened the door and the floodgates. That, you know, that free tuition meant that we had to accept students that we normally would not accept. I think that was a synonymous situation. But the other thing is, as I had said to you all, if we came out even, I would be very happy. We didn't come out quite even, but we'll talk about it.
So this is a letter we shared with the college community a couple of weeks ago. It updated both what happened with 16-17 and then what's going on with 17-18. I am not going to read this to you. I'm just going to point out the highlights, but certainly if you have questions afterwards, please let me know. As you know, 16-17, we did have a budget deficit. We had lower than anticipated enrollment. Some of that was the swing in the out-of-state. I worked with the FAST committee. We came up with an action plan. And even though we didn't hit all of the particular pieces, some of the ones we did hit, which were really important, were the revenue. We had won another $219,000, and we got 187. So we did great there. That was more students we brought in. There was another PACE cohort. And then we did have savings. A lot of it was due to the good work of the facilities team. There was $800,000 savings in utilities. Some of that was a milder winter, but a lot of that had to do with just some of the good work they've been doing to be more efficient. And we also,
I want to interrupt one thing that's critically important. That the community turned to do revenue streams. You have to understand, and that 187,000 is continuing. It's something that we will enjoy for multiple years. We didn't turn to the community and say, where are we going to cut? You have to understand the psychology of this. That everybody, if they understand how to bring revenue in appropriately, it's healthier, it's more exciting, and positions don't have to be cut. You don't go there. We still invest. And I think I want to scream that from the rooftops. It's critically important. So, thank you.
We also had savings in regular supply spending, about $250,000. That some of that savings was offset by higher spending on people, which we knew was going to happen. We had the Title F leads, which were the early separation incentives. That was a planned cost. We also had the, you might remember the overtime, FLSA changes in salaries related to overtime. At the last minute, that was revoked, but we had already promised changes to staff, and you can't, we
didn't pull.
You had to go forward with those. So there were some ups and downs, but overall, our spending was below the budget. We didn't have to use quite as much from reserves as we had originally budgeted. We still have to dip into them. We still have a structural deficit, but we did better. Excelsior. As Tara said, we didn't really see a bump in enrollment this year. Who knows what's going to happen next year? If you read any of the news clips, the New York Times had an article a week or two ago. There were 73,000 applicants for Excelsior, far more than they had anticipated. There's a lot I could say, but what I truly believe, this is a public forum, but I have said this privately as well. What I truly believe is this program is helping some families who wouldn't have gotten aid anywhere else, and I think that is a wonderful thing. And we do have some families here that have truly benefited from this program. But it's a last dollar program, so that means if you have a TAP award, if you have a Pell Grant, and certain scholarships, which we're working through that, those all come first, and then you get an Excelsior Award. And there's some data in here about how much work our offices did, and I do have to say the financial aid office did yeoman's work, and what I often neglect to say, and I have to correct that for the record, the registrar's office also did a lot of work, because part of this is not just family income, it's credit hours. They're very strict, and that's what Barb was talking about, is making sure they're filling all those requirements. So I get my glasses back on so I can actually remember some of the numbers. So we evaluated almost 700 applications, and this is as of a week or two ago. This is still fluctuating a little bit, but it'll, we'll have final numbers shortly. Of that almost 700, just under 200 students got an award. The reason most of them didn't get awards were either they didn't meet the credit hour requirements, or they had other aid that covered the tuition. Remember, this is only a tuition award. It's not a full cost of attendance award. The awards ranged from $89 to some students actually got full tuition, $64.70. So, and we'll get you some more statistics as that all falls out this year. So before I go on to the budget, any other questions about Excelsior?
So the gap piece, Wendy.
Okay, so I wasn't going to get too deep in the weeds, but this is important. This is important. I'm just trying to figure out how much to give. So the inside baseball, the TAP award only goes up to $5,500. That's as much as the Excelsior grant covers.
And tuition is?
And tuition for Excelsior students is $64.70. So there's a gap of $970. The state has money set aside to reimburse the colleges for that $970. And they are going to for this year. I totally believe that. The risk is what's going to happen in future years. And Marion pointed out a very interesting twist in this whole situation, because you've all heard about the TAP gap before. We have a lot of students who receive TAP. So we have to cover it in the first instance, and then system administration does some revenue, essentially revenue sharing. Campuses that don't have a lot of TAP students have to share some of their increased tuition with us, so it all works out in the end. Well, Excelsior, we don't have a huge number of Excelsior students, but there are other campuses that are going to have a much larger percentage, so they're going to have an Excelsior gap, worse than ours. So I have not, because the state is reimbursing that gap right now, there hasn't been any talk about revenue sharing, but should that funding go away, that's going to be an issue. So
let me add to that. So we get somewhat reimbursed, all right, from other campuses, but it costs us $1 million a year
for the TAP
and lost revenue.
For the TAP gap.
And the TAP gap.
Yeah.
And on top of that, whatever we get from the Excelsior students, it's at last year's tuition, even though tuition has gone up. So we don't get the extra 200. And on top of that, the state will take care of the Excelsior, but they haven't taken care of the TAP. Okay, so now you understand why I said if we come out even, I'd feel better. It's more about last year's tuition that's going to be in place for 4 more years, even though tuition goes up. So that's what I just want everybody. I think the more we say it, I think people will understand what we're dealing with, and then the complexity of what Barb is saying, right down to advisement of what faculty now need to know to help their students figure out their lives. Okay,
we're pretty smart, but boy, this is a challenge.
It's a challenge,
and it's not just Excelsior. There's so many other rules
pieces
that have to do with how you get your TAP, how you get your Pell, and
what you've taken prior. This is a new one too that kind of fried me with the Excelsior scholarship. If you are coming from another institution where you were part-time, you cannot get it. You're done. Even though that was before the Excelsior scholarship was even born.
Well, the beauty of
and once you lose it, you lose it.
The one thing they were trying to do, and it's going to take a while, is there's good evidence that if students take full loads and complete 15 credits a semester or 30 credits a year, they are better off. Their track of graduating exponentially increases. So the state is using that. Right, but then if you do have those who are part-time, so anybody who started college anywhere and are coming to us second year and don't have 30 credits under their belt, they are not eligible for Excelsior. However,
At the moment, there is a catch-up provision.
correct.
If during this year,
Correct.
they make up the credits. It's crazy. I mean, we could talk about this for another 2
Right.
hours.
Right. The only good news is we have a crackerjack registrar's office, financial aid office, CFO, who is watching this, and we feel we've got a handle, but it's amazing. It's totally amazing.
All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is for the 17-18 budget. We did change the process a little bit. I may have mentioned that back in the spring. We did an all-inclusive request. We're still working through some of the bits and pieces of that. FASP helped quite a bit with that this year, and then Cabinet approved, after looking at their recommendations, made the final approval on the OTPS part of the budget. The personnel part just, I don't want to say just kind of happens because the Cabinet watches that, but that doesn't come through the FASP committee. There's a lot of highlights. I think the ones I want to talk about, enrollment, obviously, with the new students and with the out-of-state students, that's helping offset some of the loss because of the continuing returning. The Title F leaves, the early separation incentive, that has generated a permanent savings of $250,000 with the faculty who left, and then the replacements at a lower salary. In discussions with the provost, we adopted a new laptop and furniture fund. It's not a secret. It's out of summer session in earnings. We're setting aside a portion of that to help pay for laptops and furniture. I think over the years, as the budget got tighter and tighter, those funds kind of dried up and it left departments on their own to pay for those. And there's a real inequity there because some departments have a little bit extra cash and some don't. So we're trying to fix that. We still figure out how to pay for the staff computers, but we'll figure that out too. The other thing, working with the provost, we're going to do differently is every year we get about $40,000 from system administration. It's called the Academic Equipment and Replacement Fund. And every campus gets a little bit of piece of it. We used to get a lot more. And I can give you a lot of history about how we used to. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing, Sue, with that fund this year?
So the deans are going to work with faculty to identify, what the needs are, but really starting with the requests that went in through the budget planning process. So each department or program area put in, a list of academic equipment that was needed. So we started this year, we purchased off that list at the end of the year, but we're going to start to do that sooner. So as soon as we have that money from SUNY, which might be October, we hope, then we'll start, and I've asked the deans to look at spending, a little over half of that this semester, and then the remainder in the spring semester.
So trying to be more strategic with the funds that we do have available and having more input from the faculty about how we're actually spending it. We do have a couple of things that are other major issues. One of them is the collective bargaining agreements. CSEA has settled, UUP, the faculty union, has not settled, but it's very close. And those are 2% per year increases over a 5-year contract. Not unexpected in the sense of we know that there's always going to be contracts, so we did budget for some of it. It's a little bit higher than we had thought. And it's going to cost us between $400,000 and $500,000 a year. And Mary, do you want to talk about the conversations you had about that?
We had a chance to meet several of us with the new chancellor. About 8 of us are in her advisory committee to help her with next steps, and the president's brought that forward as something that has to be discussed at the next president's meeting to say, look, we get it, but we don't do anything with tuition. We don't have a say in tuition. We don't have a say in collective bargaining. And yet we're the ones that have to keep doing this. And how can we do something else with the state? Is it a maintenance of effort? Do we talk to the state about taking tuition over? She's very open to hearing about this and next steps. So she's very well aware how we help keep the salaries where they need to be, as well as keeping the campuses solvent and not having to cut staff. So we were very encouraged by some of the thinking.
So, and just the last couple of things I want to talk about quickly are the tuition increase. It was $200. That's about $325,000 net gain for this year. And as Marion pointed out, because the Excelsior students are being charged a lower tuition, that's actually about $50,000 less than we would have otherwise generated. So not only do we have that $970 gap, which the state is going to cover, there's a $50,000 reduction in revenue because we couldn't charge that for those students. And then the very last thing, and I'm not going to read any of these, but as part of the budget process, we did ask for revenue generating ideas and savings ideas. We got more than 50 of each. And I've shared them with Cabinet. There's some ideas here. And Mary, I have the printouts if you thought council might want to see some of those ideas.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we send it to them?
I will send it to you. And so we'll be working to see which ones make sense. Some of them have already been implemented.
Yep.
Like one of my favorite ones actually is the paramedic program. Instead of buying simulators, they have iPads that simulate what they need to simulate. And so it saved them quite a bit of money. So that's my report, and if there's any questions.
Wendy, the talk about the $15 minimum wage, how, if anything, would that affect
That
us?
could be an issue here for a lot of reasons. The students, they do make minimum wage, so we'd have to up them. CAS, the auxiliary, that would be an issue. And then other than that, Bonnie, I don't think we have many other places that would really impact in terms of minimum wage.
No, pretty much all of the employees represented by collective bargaining are already above $15 an hour. But then, of course, you have compression issues because you're paying a state employee the same you're paying a student. If you don't address that.
We're not going to budget any contingency for that?
Well, we
or
have
might we?
pulled, we're not going to go to 15 upstate.
Yeah.
What the state, and you guys, the hospital has similar issues. But we have started to think about what does that mean, because it's going to 1075 in December.
We're already there. I mean, we've been trying to be proactive with this and to do the best we can. So
the other issue is paid family leave.
That doesn't impact. That would impact CAS.
Okay.
I think they have enough employees that it impacts them, but the state would cover our share of that as part of when they cover the fringe benefits.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
For the new hires and you heard some of the initiatives. I think for the new hires, we're just going to send out a list of the new employees we've hired, because a couple other things, and I'm cognizant of time, but we wanted the provost to go over quickly just the impact of the Middle States report and its unusual language back to us.
Yeah. So, and I believe everybody received a copy. This is our periodic review. Yeah. And we feel very good about the feedback that we received. Thought it was very positive. There were actually 3 parts to the review. There was a financial statement that we had to provide, a compliance report, which was new this year, and the PRR. So what we have to do now as an institution is respond to all 3 in one response this month. So that's kind of the next step. But I'm really happy to say the financial piece, which Wendy really put together, we were commended, I would say, as a campus for our the proactive way, I think, that the budget is handled, and really recognized as a very stable institution. And so I think that was really positive. The compliance report, we have a few issues that we're working on, working with Barb. We have to develop some policy in terms of assignment of credit hour, but I think we feel we're well positioned to do that. And then the PRR, if you noticed at the end of the report, there were really, there were a couple of areas, I should say, and one in particular that they really commended us on were efforts with new faculty and staff orientation and efforts to help new faculty and staff transition to their roles at the college. And a lot of efforts have been made in HR to have a mentoring program for new faculty and staff, to really expand the orientation process for them. And then on the faculty side, we're also doing again this year the New Faculty Development Institute. So these are really bi-weekly opportunities for new faculty to get together and kind of attend a workshop about one area of campus. So in the end, we had 4 recommendations and 3 suggestions. And I think what is really positive about this is these are things that are underway already. So the first is to complete the strategic plan. So we are 98% there. We're really excited about that. Evaluation for department chairs and program coordinators, and this is something we actually we have some faculty assigned to now through our deans and department chairs group to really look at that. It's been something we've been working on. Evaluation of adjunct faculty. Again, we have some department chairs who are going to take the lead on that to put a process in place. And then general education assessment. Jeb Anderson is actually going to lead a program review of Gen Ed. He did a survey last year, did some focus groups, and now we really want to delve into that with a program review. So we really feel positive about the direction that we're going with those. And so the planning and resource allocation, you can see some of the efforts that are being made already and have been made over the last couple of years. So that's well underway. And engaging non-faculty in the governance and decision-making process. We'll continue our efforts there. I think we've seen some great improvements in that regard. And then cultural diversity, and that really we are now moving toward advertising for a chief diversity officer on campus, and we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. So again, a number of efforts. So we feel really good about the feedback we received.
Well, I have to commend the provost and the Middle States Committee for putting this together. The thing that you have to understand is when Middle States uses the word commend, that means something. That's not just a word. If you look at where an institution falls, if a commendation is in there, that matters. It's not just that they're saying that, it's glowing. There's a result, a positive result for that. And suggestions we do not have to follow, but we will. But to have only 4 recommendations from 64, how many recommendations do we have?
Yeah, that's it.
Over the next 5 years. That has to be done over the next 5 years. So by the time it comes around again, we'll be way far and away better than even what they're suggesting us to do. You don't get a report like this easily in today's climate. And where we were from 2010 to now, it's like an entirely different institution. But it's also not just what the provost and the committee's done. It's a collective work of shared governance. It's the faculty and staff understanding and stepping up and realizing the importance of the role and that we value the role that they have here. So I am very proud and pleased for all the good work that this represents. It's just not one group. And I think shared governance is front and center in that. So Sue, thank you. Committee, thank you. Governance, thank you.
Excuse me, I would like to add, following up from Mary Ann remark, over the many years, I've either been involved or read a number of these documents over the years, and it's a pleasure to read this one. And it represented an awful lot of work by everybody on the campus around this table in one way or another. Mm-hmm. And they all deserve so much credit because this is so much further ahead than I have ever seen in all the years I've been connected here. And some years, of course, more than others, but we won't go there. But even before that, there were always a lot of recommendations and changes that I'm sure probably made, but we only have, I liken it to, because I'm in agriculture, liken it to the milk inspector that comes around to the barn every couple of months. There is no way that the milk inspector is going to leave that farm without writing up some. It could be dirty light bulbs. It's going to be something. There is no way, I'm sure there's no way to have a perfect document like this. But I would, as a council member, would like to commend all of the work that went into it. It is, I don't know whether it's the first or the second most important thing that we have around this campus. I always rank enrollment as number very, very high. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, maybe this is a chicken and egg. Would we have the enrollment that we're getting without this document, or the other way around? So these two go hand in hand, and it just represents so many hours by so many people. It's horrendous.
Yeah, well,
I'd like to commend all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all share that. We've all been involved in some of these reports that a number of years ago when they came through very critical, and there was nothing we could say but amen, because they were justified.
Yeah.
And this is such a change.
Well, thank you. And kudos to the people around this table. The only other thing I have, and I'm because of cognizant of time, is just to let you know that, and I know Oliver's going to talk about the ACT session coming up. I've been asked to speak on a panel for shared governance the Saturday morning. So I will be there. I don't know who else is on the panel, but just to let you know that SUNY has asked me to talk about shared governance at that meeting.
That's good. Good. Okay. Thank you. Barbara?
Yes.
You have a report?
I do.
I've read that report. You've been busy too.
Always. I know.
I have a copy, so you
Oh,
can-
okay. Don't worry, faculty can kill trees just like everybody else. So, Kyle, hi.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, thinking about, half of a faculty member's job is organization. If you're disorganized, you really can't do what you need to do. You can't pace yourself through a semester. You can't anticipate changes that arise from snow days or whatever. So, since I've taken the helm as presiding officer in January, I thought, what would I want to see if I were looking to come into governance, or if I were looking from the outside in? I'd want a one-stop shop for what has been done recently and what we plan to move forward to. So I birthed the year-end summary, and I had a governance planner, and we decided to put it together. So for each one of these, it's the campus governance committee that I have a part in. They're alphabetical. Who the chair is as of last year. Some of these chairs will be reelected in the next few weeks. Some may not. Then I got we have here in front of you the summary statement of what they accomplished in the last academic year, and then what we discussed in our August meeting about where we'd like the committee to go from the perspective of this point in time for the upcoming year. And then the bulk of this paperwork is actually their charge, because we throw PRR and APPC, and we're letter spaghetti here. So, whether you understand the differences between Academic Personnel Policies Committee and the Academic Policies Committee, I still get them mixed up every once in a while. So I put their charges here straight out of the faculty handbook. So the charges are really there for reference, and really what I have here are the activities from last year summarized, and then the anticipated activities for the coming year. So it'll dovetail well with what both Sue and Marion had said. APPC will do the business of APPC. We will be looking at individuals, I think 22, who are coming up for reappointment, continuing appointment, or promotion. So as of right now, it seems as if it's 22. We have a few bumps in our baby boom, and our first crop of mass retirements and then new hires is coming up for continuing appointment just about right now. So that is the bulk of what they'll be working on, mostly in the spring semester. So in the fall semester, they'll solicit applications for sabbatical, deal with any promotion portfolios, and we do have 2 people who are on an odd sequence and are coming up for some milestone in their career in the fall. So that will be the work of APPC. In addition, we are working on creating a procedures manual for APPC. You notice that their charge is already this long. What we find is, especially with the new hires getting into governance now, is we have a lore, or kind of like an urban history of what we do in each committee and how things happen. But rather than have one person take another one for coffee and tell them, we can write it down. And then we can look at it, evaluate it, and determine whether or not the policies or the procedures that we use to adhere to these policies are appropriate given the shifts in what we do. So the procedures manual is not going to be an official document, no gilded heading, but mainly a working document that the committee can use as a guiding light for what they do. So this is one of 2 committees that I've asked to put a procedures manual for. Put a procedures manual together. The other one is professional development. How do they evaluate professional development applications? How do they prioritize which professional development applications receive a higher percentage of funding, which ones don't, which ones have to go back to sender? So I'm free to answer any questions, but I'll just go through the highlights of the activities of the committees for the upcoming year. Academic Policies Committee will be working mainly right now in codifying our credit hour policies. I don't think, because Sue alluded to it, kind of pointed to me, and I don't think Marion brought it up. The real issue is we have credit hour policies. First of all, I want to get it up. We have them. Right. But what we do is we refer to SUNY's policy. And so the keeper of the key is SUNY. And what Middle States has said is very clear, and it's actually very smart. We don't accredit SUNY, we accredit SUNY Cobleskill. So we have to take what are SUNY-wide policies for credit hours and now put them on our campus and our local documents so that if anything changes at SUNY, we have our local documents, we evaluate whether or not we change ours. So why wouldn't we? But anyway, so that is not a small task. It sounds simple. We have credit hours at SUNY. We'll just move them over. Well, it really comes down to every mode of delivery. So every mode of delivery will need to be evaluated for credit hours. That includes a face-to-face. That includes maybe a hybrid where maybe we do online for lecture, but we do lab face-to-face, or we do online for 2 of the 3 hours a week, and we do face-to-face for 1 hour of the week. It could be a different mod. So summer school, we take a 15-hour course, we make it 6 hours. Or, I'm sorry, a 15-week course, we make it 6 weeks. That's a different mod. So we have to accommodate for all these variabilities. So it's as if someone, asked you, how do you get dressed in the morning? Well, I put on my underwear, I put on my pants, I put on my shirt. Yeah, but what if you change to a skirt? Okay, so we have to do all the different variabilities of that. It's a lot of work, but it's not hard work, and I don't think it's controversial work. It's just the work of the committee. We will need to bring this to a faculty vote twice. So we bring it up for, not a vote twice. It has to be brought to the faculty twice. Once for discussion, and then at a different faculty meeting to actually put it officially into the bylaws. So the earliest we could do that would be January. I'm hoping by May. I'll just leave it that way. We'll certainly get it before the faculty before then. I don't think there's going to be a lot of controversy. But ultimately, fallout for this is we really do have to say, do we do what we say we do? And so then it will be looking at, especially our alternate mods, and seeing do they bear out the credit hour necessities that we say that they do. And that's probably where the sticky wicket will be. But we'll get there. Curriculum Committee is going to work with Academic Policies Committee to do that sticky wicket piece, to be able to say, okay, we have these 1,000 courses or so that we've taught in different, when you look at all the different mods, do they all adhere to the credit hour policies that we're developing? And then going back to the departments and the programs where we may not have quite hit the mark, and then fix them. And then we also approved minors last year. Academic Policies is also working on a double majors policy. That will probably get to the faculty in October, and that will be ready to go in January. And so then Curriculum Committee sees a bloom of double majors that may maybe realignment of some of the existing programs so that double majors are an easier grab for students. So that will be another thing that they'll be working on. And then the Online Learning Task Force, again, looking at these different mods and Curriculum Committee evaluating, are we meeting the mark? That will be the bulk of their work, as well as the work of our expanding programs and our changing courses. Facilities and Space accomplished quite a bit last year. We are working on a zero sorting initiative for the following year. We pay $80,000 to get rid of our trash every year, and I'm sure Wendy would like that to be about $5,000. Yeah. So I just heard at a meeting yesterday that we had a student group go through our trash. Have you heard this, Sue? This one's a great one. This is the club I don't want to sign up for. They elected to go out and look in the trash bins and see how much, sort through it, and figure out how much was really eligible for zero sort and how much was trash. And 80% of it was zero sort, and it was in the trash. So it's an education program. It's I don't know, indoctrination, whatever. But we can make it $5,000, Wendy, if we just get everyone, including the old farts, to put things in the wrong bin. And so also, as you know, our campus continues to beautify itself. So facility design and repair issues go through facilities and space. There were too numerous to put here. So I just left deal with facility design and repair issues. For Fiscal Affairs and Strategic Planning Committee, we have really a two-pronged approach of what's happening. The strategic plan should be born in its full termness by October, I would say. We have early October as a deadline.
Yeah, I filled them in, Barb.
Okay.
Now where governance will come into play.
Yep. So we'll be doing the implementation part. So instead of the planning part, now we're facilities and fiscal affairs, switch bar, we'll be working on the implementation piece. And then the budgeting piece that Wendy has been working with for other than personnel services, that budgetary model, there have already been some decisions to move up the requests to fall and then have a series of face-to-face conferences with the budget holders to be able to have them justify their requests to the committee directly. And then I think negotiations will take place around a table together with all of the committee members rather than having them do it by email, so that they can use the synergy of the table to come to an agreement about numbers. Moving on, Professional Development Committee. I told you that we are looking to make a procedures manual for them, and we're still trying to deal with the difficulties that arise with a budget cycle that begins July 1st, but we don't have student numbers until the third week of September, and we have professional development time in that intervening time. That's when faculty do not have a teaching obligation, and it's the most obvious time for them to develop professionally, go to conferences, learn new skills, and we have really no good way yet to get them pre-approved for those activities during that intervening time. Technology Committee is working with the President's Office and governance to create a white paper on technology of the future. What does the future of technology in higher education mean? Everything from what's in front of us and on this table to what makes teaching and learning easier, and how information delivery will change as well. So that's the boring stuff and the really sexy stuff really there. And really how our structure, our technology structure may wish to change. It's a white paper. It's, the world in microcosm here, but that white paper is almost due. It is a little behind. I will tell you that the committee is behind on their work on that, but I saw great improvement in the last 2 weeks.
Good. Thank you.
So, and then Governance Executive Committee, that's really the group of all of the committee chairs around the table. And our anticipated activities include moving to electronic voting for the larger group in two capacities. One, the faculty want to be able to come to a faculty meeting, sit in a room, and then vote, but not have to do this. There's the perception, and I think it's silly, and I think it's silly, just telling the computer in case anyone wants to know, that they feel retribution for putting their hand up should it be something controversial. They would, I know, exactly, and that's why I think it's silly. So instead, what they would like is to have a device that we can certify their vote, but then the vote tally is not, the tally would be available, but the individual votes and how they ranked would only be available to the presiding officer and to the secretary. So I'm although I feel it's silly, I'm going to investigate the options that are out there and present them to the faculty because it's not about me. I actually can't vote. Isn't that ironic? Okay. The other one is computer-based balloting. We want to be able to do that so that we do not have to get in a room for all sorts of votes. We haven't yet figured out what we would do computer balloting for as a campus versus what we would do in the room. When this actually got more traction than I thought it would, the people in the faculty meeting who came to the meeting wanted it to be all votes are in the meeting. You can understand they've self-selected. Right. The ones who aren't at the meeting would like computer balloting. So I'll deal with my diaspora in any way I can. Anne, do you have a comment?
I'm sorry, no, but the discussion and being part of the discussion and hearing it is very important before voting, and that's the thing I would say.
And why I think it's silly.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a national issue. So
very true.
do this. Okay.
So I've been involved in the strategic plan, as has the rest of the executive committee, and I will be helping APPC and professional development with their procedures manuals. Of course, I will continue to meet with our people around this table and bring the issues of the faculty to these groups and also issues of these groups to the faculty, so I will continue to be a conduit back and forth. Does anyone have any questions?
I just want to add, there's more than what is on this paper.
It was 9 pages, Marion. I tried to make it shorter.
Behind the scenes, no, not just the action, but behind the scenes of working towards that mutual respect and trust of shared governance that puts out something like this. And the other thing that I'm grateful for, and I know Sue is too, is that Barb and the executive team of Kurt and the senator, who this year is Chuck Moran, meets with us behind closed doors, and I have never had such an opportunity to share what is on our minds and what keeps Sue and I up at night, and share that with them and back and forth, and know that they're giving us advice. It's so thank you for that, and that's the way to do it. And there's some things we don't share yet because we can't, and to have that mutual respect at that level, I think, is showing in many, many ways. So I also want to make sure that, for the record, to say that.
And I get as much out of those meetings as do you.
They're important, so thank you.
And I commend you, Barb. This is great.
It's fabulous.
Oh, that's terrific. Thanks.
It's nice.
So, I mean, I don't mean to give you more reading homework. The Middle States Report is a burner, a page turner, but at least you have a handy reference here. And my intention is to do one of these every year. And just so that you have an accumulation. And then this is not just useful for this group, this is even useful for ourselves. We can reflect back, what did we think we were going to do, what we didn't do because it just didn't work, why didn't we do it, that's all part of the reflective process.
Thank you.
So you've got your I've got my syllabus.
That's great.
Good job.
Yeah. Okay, student government. Kyle, do you have any?
Yeah, I got some stuff. I don't have a handout, but I have some stuff.
That's quite all right. You don't have to have a handout.
All right, so first on the topic of hurricane relief, we've been working with Matt Barney, who's on the new fundraising program, I believe. So we've been working with him, and we are doing the bucket program. It's called Hope for Houston. I believe we put 32 buckets around campus in many different places, such as RA offices, dining halls, stuff of that nature. And the point of it is, if you have any change, if you have any cash on you, throw it in the bucket, and all that money will go to Hurricane Harvey. We also decided to turn it into a competition between the residence halls, and we're going to send out an email and let them know. The prize is truly bragging rights, but we're going to put up a banner and/or photo in Bauck Hall so that anyone who walks in for like the next month after will see it and be like, they did that and we didn't. But yeah, so we're doing that. And we, at our last student government meeting, got into, I'd say, a little bit of a heated debate about what we should be raising money for, with Irma coming in and there being wildfires at the same time and nobody knowing where we should be putting the money. So we've also been keeping a close eye on Irma and the kind of damages that might be caused from it. And after the fact, we're going to see what's going on with that and then potentially start raising money for another thing right after raising for Hurricane Harvey. So that's I don't want to say that's pretty cool, but that's pretty cool. Disaster's not that cool.
Just to let you know, with Harvey, one thing, the SUNY is sending down the maritime ship full of SUNY donated supplies too. And I don't know if the student government knew that, if you're if you're going to use that or not, but just.
And the 600 berths will be available for first responders and disaster crews and cleanup crews that are down there to do that. And of course, it's such a learning experience for the maritime students as well. What an amazing opportunity for them. Kyle, I'd had a question, and this really goes back to the legacy of, unfortunately, this is not the first disaster that has gone on while I've been here. Excuse me. When we had the earthquakes in China, when we had the tsunami, when we had other hurricanes like Katrina, the college as a whole, and this is really a Marion thing too, was able to make a difference not just in donations, but actually invite people to our neighborhood. And Ann, you were involved in that with we had Chinese students here when their university was destroyed with the earthquake in China, and with the tsunami and Katrina particularly, we had them come to campus or come to the community, find places for them to live, and then we offered select scholarships to those students to be able to attend college here. Because, it's not just a disaster that you're going to pop right back from. So if there's anything that we can do as faculty and students together as a possibility, we can really make more than just a monetary donation to these people's lives. We could change them.
Absolutely.
Ann, we'll turn that to you, okay?
Definitely something. Kind of tying in with that, we had the blood drive on Wednesday that we did. We crunched the numbers on Tuesday before the blood drive and found out that we're still #1 in the SUNY system for raising blood.
Wow. We have been forever.
And on the blood drive this Wednesday, we raised 146 units, which is remarkably above average compared to what we usually do. So there's a good chance we will continue to be #1 in the SUNY system. So
I heard from a student that there was an hour and 40-minute wait if you were a walk-in. So that just tells you how well we were doing.
And we did a good job on the tabling efforts, too. We were tabling for 3 days. We decided to try tabling at Kobe Late Night this year, too, just because there are going to be so many people coming in and out, especially these first 2 weeks. And we got, I think, like 30 to 40 people to sign up just at Kobe Late Night, so that was really cool.
Congratulations.
For Club Fair, that happened yesterday. A lot of clubs came out, a lot of people signed up. It was very successful. One thing we're looking at is we want to keep an eye on recruiting closer than we have in the past, because it's very important that clubs try to expand their members and that more people get involved in clubs, because it's such a great opportunity for them. So we had somebody go around at the first club fair and at the club fair yesterday to keep a track of which clubs actually showed up, so that if there's a club that's consistently not putting themselves out there, that's a conversation we can absolutely have with them. Next week on Wednesday, we're doing the first club council. We're going to do a little bit of training with the clubs, going over some stuff with the new officers. And we decided to do it next Wednesday because immediately after that is going to be the Title IX training with Lynn Berger. So that way we already have them trapped in the room, and then Lynn walks in. So,
much appreciated.
Yeah. And then just on a last piece, this is a little fun thing that I'm not going to talk too much about. But back at the beginning of the year, President Terenzio gave a really big speech about the new plans going on and a feeling of virtue, the liberty thing going on campus. So we at student government are starting what I want to say is going to be a pretty big project that's going to be hopefully a tradition we can continue to pass down from here, following those ideas and really engaging the community in a new way and bringing people together. But that's all I'm going to say about that for now. I'll tell you more about it next time.
I cannot wait. Kyle's referring to a convocation. Instead of sending out a letter like presidents do with everything going on after Charlottesville, I talked about the Liberty Bell and the Liberty Bell Initiative, and that liberty cannot be discussed without virtue, and freedom needs to include virtue. So I'm very delighted to hear how that's. Yeah. And I'm ordering over 100 Liberty Bells to be spread around campus.
You hit the ground running, Kyle.
Yeah.
We're trying to start strong. That way, pick it up fast, and then hopefully everything will continue on as it goes. But with this project that we're doing, it kind of came out of a conversation of bringing together different sides of the campus and the community together, and we had the idea of like, oh well, let's make kind of like a squad or like a team of people to do this, and I didn't really like that idea too much. So we came up with something that we thought is going to be a lot better, a lot beneficial, and get a lot more students involved than we originally thought possible. So that's going to be cool. And that's
Cannot wait.
Good.
We got to make sure it's possible first. Then I'll
Let us know if we can help.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, any questions of Kyle?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Tim was going to call in, but I'm not sure they ever did.
Tim emailed Olive to just ask me to give an update on culinary extravaganza.
Okay.
They are out getting supplies. I'll be brief. I'm very proud to say that we have already exceeded the sponsorship from last year. We're at 18,750 and we have another month to go. That includes 122 guests. I hope you did receive your invitation in the mail because last year we had just under 250 and the room was full. So if you haven't gotten your RSVPs in, let us know. This year added to the event is an educational piece at each table that connects the producer, the farmer, the product with the chef at the table. So it pushes that farm to table movement. And if you recall last year's Text to Give raised funds for the Dairy Processing Center as well as our fermentation program. This year's Text to Give will raise funds for our canine program.
What's the date?
Excuse me, October 13th, and it is a Friday. It is the kickoff for homecoming weekend. Friday the 13th.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Lois. Mark, but before Mark starts, I just want to commend him for the bang-up job he does at the state fair. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
And the booths were just out of the world.
That was Jim
Feldman.
That was Jim Feldman.
Yeah, Jim Shorf.
And, I looked at Morrisville and I looked at
They took pictures. They took pictures of ours.
Oh, it was pitiful.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know what to say. I'll tell Morrisville.
They already know.
You're such a great
ambassador
for the college. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll be brief. This summer we did have 2 alumni mixers, one in conjunction with Empire Farm Days with the National Agri-Marketing Association, and that was in Seneca Falls. And then we had one at Hazlitt Laundries. And then we're looking forward to homecoming weekend and family weekend, which is October 13, 14, and 15. It'll be outstanding again.
Absolutely.
And really, that's all I have to say.
Any questions?
You need a nap.
Yeah.
Okay. My report.
Next part.
Yeah, the council had a very interesting sort of orientation meeting a little earlier this summer, which got us all together and got us all back on focus, I think. And I appreciate everyone that could come, came. I know a couple of you had other commitments, and I'm sorry that we were not able to accommodate everyone's schedule. Other than that, I do want to talk about the ACT. I know some of you can't go because of other commitments for your jobs, but how many are planning on going? No. Anne, you're going to go?
Just as a day tripper.
Okay,
Not
Saturday
overnight.
would be a good day. Friday we start out with, dinner and orientation and usually a speaker or something. And have an opportunity to exchange ideas with others. The ACT attendance, I think, has gotten better as far as representation from the various colleges. And I think the program has improved some. So,
the new chancellor will be there.
Which we great. And I'll be there for the all the time. And I'm glad that Marion accepted the position on the panel. So we will look forward to that and report back to this group. And again, I encourage you to really think about that each year. It comes up at about the same time, and they give us plenty of notice. So I think it's important to get out there and to talk to other council members from all the various SUNY institutions, and to actually get some, and programs, as I say, have become better organized. And I think the subjects they cover are more appropriate to council members. So with that, I have one, the next is report from council members. If anyone has concern or something they would like us to work on. The one I know that Phil has is on some way of implementing the policy on naming. You know, it's been on our agenda for years. I think we have a good policy. I think it covers whatever we need. And I suggested to the president that she appoint a committee to come up with a procedure for implementing the policy. And I suggested also that the council member be Phil. I also thought it would be a good idea to have someone chair it from the cabinet, and have a couple of faculty members and a professional member to represent the campus, so that the word gets out there and everyone knows what it's about.
Okay.
So
it'd be my pleasure.
It's your ball court now.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to get this off the table
Right.
and get something that we could work with.
Right. Okay.
This year.
Duly noted.
Report from any other council members. Anything else on your agenda you'd like to talk about in the future, and we can get the information together. Okay, with that, let's go on to old business, which we have none. New business was just to bring us up to date on the foundation and what they've been doing.
Can we put that to next time?
We can table that till next time, yes, when Tim is available. Our bylaws say that we have an election of college council vice chairperson and secretary each year, and that you cannot serve, there are term limits on those, and you cannot serve more than 2 years at a time. And so I'd like to open the nominations for the vice chair of the council. Do I have any recommendations?
Well, I would certainly like to recommend Eric Stein for the vice chairperson of the council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, who do I put?
Any other nominations?
Congratulations. I should have had a speech or something.
Okay, hearing none, I'd like to instruct the secretary to cast a unanimous vote for Eric as the vice chair for the council.
Congratulations.
We also we would railroad you into that. Okay, we need a secretary.
Got to double his pay.
I believe that, Ann, you've been the secretary for 2 years now, is that true? Or has it been, no, it's only been a year.
I've been the secretary. Did somebody not tell me this? I have it in none of my notes, and I have notes for every meeting.
Oh, no, you said, oh, yes, we were having trouble getting one, and you said, oh, yeah, you would do it.
Did I really?
Yes.
Well, it was in one of my
Less lucid moments.
You were so stunned saying yes, you forgot to write it down.
You're very funny here.
I'd still like a nomination. That, you know, it's sort of, our bylaws call for one, and maybe we should go back and look at that. But really, there's not much to do. We have two really capable people that keep us on track, Irene and Amy, and so they do the yeoman's work.
Did you only do 1 year, so you can do another year?
I think.
To someone else.
I would nominate you.
No. No,
Well, that's very funny.
Okay.
She has.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I think in the changing world here, where we assume that the women will be I would very much like to nominate yes. So that we can have a male secretary that's as important in gender equity as having a female president. So thank you. Do I have a second?
Eric, I think you
You
should
think I'm serious? I'm
I'll
serious.
second it.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
Congratulations, Richard. Yes.
Probably next year I'll remember this.
I figured we were going to nominate one of our past secretaries because she's here today. Don't you always nominate somebody who's in the room?
No, I have all the notes. How it happens. I have them all up for you. My personal notes on all of the meetings.
I'm going to email them to me.
Yes, I'll do that.
And
Very funny.
as I said, it's it's called for in our bylaws, and maybe we need to go back and look at that. I do think that there is a need for a vice chairperson, very definitely. But perhaps the secretary has outgrown or not sort of disappeared in the early years, because the president's assistant executive or whomever has always taken over for the notes and done a great job.
Yes.
So,
Finally get a male secretary and you're going to do away with the
No.
position.
to revise the.
And
How do you do that?
Oh, Lord, that's a good one.
But I appreciate your humor. Okay. Approval of advisory committee members for agriculture, engineering, and technology. I know this came out a little late, but I think it's important that we get this committee going, because that's one of our major charges, is to get.
Does anybody need a copy? I do.
There is one that wants to retire, and I understand that.
You do.
And there are two that they're asking us to approve that are new. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this when I sent it out originally, and then Irene sent it out again. I'm pleased personally to see that they're all working and that they're, major companies that are represented on this. I think it's important, particularly for this group. So I think this is a great step.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, not that I would want to change this because the people have already thought about this, obviously, and most of them are very good. But I would have hoped that somebody would have been on here from John Deere because of our program. But I'm sure we've got adequate representation.
Yeah, and that may be because there is actually a separate John Deere Tech Advisory Committee. So there's actually a second body that specifically guides that program.
This one wants to see it overlooked.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if there are no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried.
Since we're on this, I know there was interest to make sure that the advisory committee agendas and times have gone out to the council. So, Sue, I would imagine you can help us with that. And to send that out and then just let us know what council members would like to attend.
Yes, there are several of us that will attend if we get just a little notice.
Yeah, so we're going to get better at that for you guys.
Okay.
And I know we have another approval request coming forward from Animal Science as well, so just so you're aware.
Okay, our next council meeting will be on October the 11th, and we're going to take a tour of the old gym following the business meeting. So we try to look around and see all the campus during a 2-year period that we repeat because everything is changing and we want to see all the new things that are going on. I would like to also entertain a motion to go into executive session. We need
a couple of minutes
for that. Second. We will convene right after the executive session. And adjourn is all we're going to do.